Hey, there's another candidate for Congress that you may not have heard about or met, but you will tonight.
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Taub Comfort Solutions.
And H. Russell Taub is actually the first guy in the Republican primary to run against David Cicilline. Karen MacBeth got all the attention, 10 days ago or so, but he said, hey, here first, so we'll meet him tonight. How are you? Good? All right. Mondays are always hard. Well, it depends. Are they hard for you?
Sometimes.
Lexi's the same. She's the same every day. That's why we get the job done here. Steve, are they hard for you? Yeah. Steve's different. Steve and I, we're old guys. See, on Monday, it takes a little while to get it grinding up. Anyway, let's go to the rundown and see what's going on here. So Monday comes after Sunday. Boy, what a start. Globe front page. That was the Sunday Globe front page. Now, I have to tell you something. I missed this one. I didn't get the paper. I was still convinced that they put those front page mock headlines on the ideas section. No, it was on the front page. Just watch the story, Danny, and you'd get it straight.
We want the Republican Party, as they head to their convention this summer, asking themselves tough questions.
It's an extraordinary chapter in journalism. The Boston Globe upping the political ante, publishing a fake front page this Sunday. A pointed parody, an editorial offering its own glimpse of what a Donald Trump presidency would look like.
We listened to Donald Trump's speeches, we scoured his website, we read his position papers, we considered who his advisors are, and we did what the Globe does best. We reported it out and put it on the front page for our readers to see.
It looks like it's working. It certainly has John Keller's attention.
On the one hand, the Boston Globe editorial board is doing exactly what an editorial board should be doing, taking a strong position, arguing for it forcefully and passionately. And if you want people to pay attention and listen up, well, the fake front page is certainly creating a lot of buzz.
The satirical headlines discuss deportations, riots, a plunging economy. But what do voters think?
We're in enough trouble as it is with all of the issues of people working together, and that's just going to make it more difficult than ever before.
I don't know. I think the Globe's going a little too far also.
Yeah, I think so, too. I say that I made a mistake because on the radio today, I conducted the conversation, weekdays noon to 3 on WPRO, of course. I conducted the conversation as though it was in the ideas section. Now that I see, the headline there and that particular editorial was in the ideas section, but this was an actual printing on the front page in mock form, and I think it's outrageous. It's just, you know what it is? It's violating journalistic sacred ground, and we need to establish journalistic sacred ground. The Boston Globe ought to be a pillar of that particular part of the journalistic community that establishes that sacred ground. Of course, they walked right into it for Donald Trump.
Whole front page, they made up a story that they pretended Trump is the president, and they made up the whole front page is a make-believe story, which is really no different from the whole paper for the whole thing. I mean, the whole thing is made up.
Bada bing. End the experiment right now, please. Speaking of Trump, he's coming. He's coming, and Bill is coming, I guess, and it's going to be an interesting end of the week. We do have a primary coming up April 26th, in case you're scoring at home. Here's a headline that says, from the weekend's activity, that the rules are just not fair. Donald's doing a lot of crying now. Here's kind of a summary on the whole situation.
It's a crooked system, folks. It's a crooked system.
Donald Trump told a crowd of several thousand in Rochester, New York, that Ted Cruz and state GOP loyalists were conspiring against him and his supporters.
It's not right. We're supposed to be a democracy. We should have won it a long time ago. But, we keep losing where we're winning.
That's a reference to Louisiana, South Carolina, Missouri, and Tennessee, primary states Trump won, but is in danger of losing delegates to Cruz at state conventions. In Colorado, a state that did not hold a traditional primary, all 34 available delegates at the state convention went to Cruz, prompting Trump on Twitter to describe great anger among voters denied a voice. Trump's new convention manager, Paul Manafort, described Cruz's efforts this way.
You go to these county conventions and you see the Gestapo tactics. We're going to be filing several protests because the reality is they're not playing by the rules.
Fundraising in Las Vegas this weekend, Cruz predicted Trump would limp into a contested convention, fail to win on the first ballot, and be sent packing.
I believe the first ballot will be the highest vote total Donald Trump receives, and on a subsequent ballot, we're going to win the nomination and earn a majority.
Well, it very well could be the case. The problem is that many delegates have as much feeling for Mr. Cruz as they do for Mr. Trump. Certainly the establishment delegates do. As far as the rules being broken, they're not being broken. As far as Cruz out hustling and out organizing and scoffing up those disenfranchised delegates and uncommitted delegates and scoring points when he's losing particular states, that's called understanding the way the rules work. This is not a pure democracy. The nomination process is a process that's controlled by the party. Remember that. Always remember that. All right, speaking of the candidates in Rhode Island, Bernie has started to make his presence known here. He's got a lot of dough. I mean, this is certainly not an underfunded campaign by any stretch. Here's his television ad.
New York. What makes it think bigger? Go bolder. Push for a living wage that's higher. For tuition-free public college. Justice that works for all.
And so that is, we're seeing ads like that here in Rhode Island as well. And it's all part of the organization that's going on. We had the Rhode Island director of the Bernie Sanders campaign here on Friday. I'm still laughing at Joe Caiazzo. He couldn't tell me who else was on the team.
I mean, you know, I think where your public officials are and where your activists are two totally different things.
Agreed. Agreed. But is there anybody? Are you going to preview for me that there's going to be some establishment Democrat that's going to sign up as the Bernie Sanders something? We
certainly have a laundry list of public officials and people who are leaders in the community who are going to be with us on this campaign.
Yeah.
So
well, we got to wait to the next show.
Yeah, exactly. Tell you that,
Yeah. Well, State Senator Jim Sheehan kind of peeked out and said, "Hey, I'm with Bernie, so we'll have Jim in." I'm not sure that Jim is establishment. Not that establishment candidates are necessary. I mean, we've got a whole new dynamic this year, but it's a movement by the people, so to speak. There were hundreds at an opening rally for Bernie this weekend. All right, listen, just a reminder. Tonight, you probably missed it, but tomorrow and the next day, there are meetings. Here's the headline. This is a huge, nearly $1 billion project going on right underneath our noses. And here are the meeting schedules. There was one tonight at CCRI. There's one at the Webster School tomorrow night, and then one Wednesday night at the Cranston Senior Center. If you want to voice your concern about that road being turned into green space at $1 billion, half of which is going to be federal, half of which, well, it's not $1 billion yet. It's 800 and change, but it'll be $1 billion by the time it's done. You know, a lot of this money is coming from the projections in the tolls. But we never talked about this project the way they're talking about it now when we debated the tolls and the legislature voted on it. It's one of the bigger switch pitches we've ever had in the state's history. And there's a couple of more public hearings, no big deal. And then they go put the application into the feds, get their $400 million, match it with $400 of projected money coming from the toll works, and bada bing. It's amazing. An $800 billion project ought to be voted upon by the people, for heaven's sakes, it's so big. Instead, it's like 3 meetings and outs. Your option, pass or play on this one. And of course, the big story that everybody was talking about at the water cooler this morning was the collapse of Jordan Spieth. Shocking, says ESPN. Here's the recap. Okay, so we do not have the recap, but we do have me. Well, you know, sometimes the computer gets stuck. You know what? It's only actually, you know what? We'll just that's fine. We'll run it tomorrow night. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I just want to tell you, Jordan Spieth throwing up on the 12th hole yesterday is actually, although horrifying to people who want to see him win, and a wonderful opportunity for Danny Willett, who shot 67, by the way, to win the Masters, which will probably be forgotten next week. But the one thing, you know, listen, I've had some moments in my amateur golf career, very few. But I'm a competitive player and used to be a single-digit handicap. Sort of am now, but, you know. But it's not about me. Here's the thing. And think about this. For those of you who are amateur players and play at a competitive level, whether it be at your public course or at your $2 Nassau's or all the way up to a state amateur qualifier or something like that, the idea that he knocked that ball into the water the second time and then into the trap the third time on the 12th hole ought to be a gift to all amateur competitive players. You know why? Because the pressure of having to perform and the embarrassment in not performing has been relieved by Jordan Spieth's mistakes. Does that make any sense to you? We're going to get some golf guys in here this week, I hope, or next for sure, and talk about the psychology of what that actually did for the every person golfer out there. Those who compete and those who felt the pressure of competition with a golf club in their hand, it's, he'll be back. No doubt about it. For me, it changes my season. I'll elaborate at another time. Lexi's like, what? I'm just telling you, it does. All right, let's get to the business at hand. We've got a young man who wants to be the 1st District Congressman, so I'm told. The big news last week, 10 days ago, was that the State Representative Karen MacBeth was joining the fracas. But this guy had already been in the hunts. There you go, a little website.
Good picture.
Good picture?
I like that picture.
Yeah.
Good picture.
You like yourself in the picture?
I do.
Well, there you go.
I didn't even take the picture.
It's important to have a healthy self-identity, and so you like yourself in the picture.
I do. I gotta look somewhat respectable, somewhat reasonable.
All right, H. Russell. Is it Taub or Taub?
Taub, either
Taub.
one.
All right, doesn't matter?
Doesn't matter, no.
Well, welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you so much.
You are a candidate for U.S. Congress.
I am.
And have been for what period of time?
A little bit over a year now.
Huh?
A little over a year, I know.
Someone said to me last week, there's this other guy in the campaign. I said, never heard of him. Well, he's been in the campaign for a year.
Well, in the beginning,
like, what?
In the beginning, we actually started an exploratory committee. We kind of just, talk to the people and make sure it's actually worth running. We don't want to waste all this time and money. We don't waste time of voters and waste donations. So we decided we'll just talk about it, and we ended up doing it. And then we launched in a unconditional way. We kind of came out very strong against
unconditional or non-traditional?
I think both in some way.
Unconditional or non-traditional?
Non-traditional.
Okay.
Non-traditional. We came out very strongly against the tolls. I fought the tolls when they first came out, so I was really upset about them. So we offered a federal plan to basically sort of balance the tolls, and I offered to put federal legislation in to revert all the gas tax dollars, the federal gas tax dollars, to kick it back into the state if I was elected a member of Congress, which will then help pay for the bridges and roads. Actually, this plan was actually part of Governor John Kasich's plan if he became president. So hopefully, I'm counting on that, so hopefully we'll be able to work together.
All right, well, you're rolling all that in ahead of steam here. Do you want to tell everybody about yourself?
Sure. I went to Johnson & Wellesley University. I'm 27 years old. I studied hospitality management and entrepreneurship. I transferred there from Fairleigh Dickinson University in New Jersey, where I studied politics, foreign politics actually. So that's why I do some work with the Ukrainian government. And I sort of fell into politics here.
You do what for the Ukrainian government?
So I could do some consulting work for them. I do some government relations work, some small business work. I try to connect businesses from Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Connecticut to the Ukrainian government who wanted to expand. So instead of having a headquarters here in Rhode Island, they could also have a headquarters in Ukraine too, and expand and create more jobs.
Uh-huh.
So, and my college roommate.
Is that a profitable venture for you?
It is somewhat. My college roommate was Ukrainian, so that's how I got involved in the Ukrainian community, and I started to fall in love with it. I'm like 1% Ukrainian, so it's been a fantastic time. I love it. I'm actually going to the Ukrainian government in D.C. We'll be meeting with the ambassador. I'll be hosting his congressional briefing with members of Congress and the Senate to discuss ongoing situations with Russia and the United States.
Well, there you have it. The candidate's been busy. When we come back, we'll hear more about what he thinks representation in the 1st District ought to look like. Stay with us. So to remind you, this was the big story in the congressional race a few days ago.
You want to sit down? The idea to bounce from Democrat to Republican has been in Representative Karen MacBeth's head for a few months. The pen has been put to paper, and the switch is complete.
I think right now, if you look over the last couple of years, it's been a party, certainly while I've served, that's trying to be there for the people, and I'd like to be part of that.
Now the number of representatives on the Republican side is 13. Brandon Bell is the party's chairman in Rhode Island. He calls MacBeth the face of good government.
She's the perfect Republican in Rhode Island. She really stands for those values. Good government is one of our really big issues.
MacBeth has served as a Democrat for nearly 4 terms and has been a force behind the 38 Studios hearings, working as chairwoman of the House Oversight Committee. That position is being stripped away by House Speaker and Democrat Nicholas Mattiello.
I consider all chair people part of my leadership team, and she can no longer be part of my leadership team at this point.
Bell tells us he's had conversations with other State House lawmakers about making the same move as MacBeth, including 1 state senator and 3 representatives.
I've talked to several. I don't know that it's going to happen in the near future with any others at this point in time.
That's the chairman. He's not even thinking about you.
No, he's
not even talking about you. It was just, I didn't even know that you were in the race until after she decided to make this move. So what up with that?
Well, the chairman made it very clear that he's focused on the General Assembly, and it makes sense that he's focused on the General Assembly. That's what the chairman's role is. The chairman's role is never congressional in a heavily blue state. Same thing with Massachusetts, same thing.
What do you mean? Wait. The chairman made it clear he's focused on the General Assembly. The chairman made it clear that she's the ultimate Republican, 3 days born.
Well, I
right?
think as a state rep, yes, not as a congressional candidate. There's a big difference. I consider it a huge difference. And he made it very clear that he's devoting 130%. He was quoted in the quote on WPRO saying he's supporting the General Assembly candidates. So that's his priority. And after the race, after our primary, he'll get behind us. But I understand that he's supporting the General Assembly candidates. I am supporting them too. They're part of my team. We work together. That's how we win together.
What General Assembly candidates are part of your team running for Congress?
Well, Representative Michael Chippendale has not withdrawn his endorsement of our candidacy. Rep. Anthony Giarrusso has also been part of us. State Senator Elaine Morgan from the Senate side. These are people that have been said, Russ, we're still with you. We're still with you. They haven't told us otherwise. And that's been great. The support has been actually increasing. Thanks to Karen MacBeth, we saw an increase in donations. We saw an increase in volunteers.
From what to what, donation-wise? How much, since you brought it up, how much dough have you raised?
We raised around, I put $12,000 in of my own. A little more than that, actually. We actually just reported that we have $48,000 that we raised. We have $8,000 cash on hand. But we're not really focusing on the fundraising, which we should. We're actually focusing on meeting the voter and meeting the individuals in the community, because that's half the battle. And that's one thing David does not focus on. David focuses on fundraising. In 1 month, he had 3 fundraisers, 2 in Rhode Island, 1 in D.C. with the lobbyists.
Well, money drives Congress.
It does. It does. And believe it or not, we are not expected to raise $1 million. It does not cost $1 million to win our seat. These are, we've had experts come in from media firms to look at Rhode Island and say, Russ, you don't need $1 million to win. You need to, you need to spend wisely. You need to spend conservatively. You need to be, be mindful what you're going to spend on. You can't just throw money everywhere.
Well, when they said, Russ, you don't need $1 million, what did they say? Russ, you need what?
Well, they say from at least 500,000 or up, that they're going to need, but $1 million is from, a lot of people say, the experts, so-called experts, say you need $4 million to beat David Cicilline. I don't see that. A lot of it's about media and marketing. When you look at David's, spending, it's all media. It's not about, lawn signs or ads. It's all media towards the end of his campaign. And we see that. We recognize that. We had other people look at it too. And, David knows that as well. But David hates spending money, though. You could see it all the time. He always overspends.
All right. Well, there's the business side of it. Why do you want to be the congressman?
Believe it or not, I went to Johnson Wales University. I'm 27 years old. I love this, I love the state. I love the school. I got a job at Blackstone Valley Tourism Council. I worked there for 3 years, a little over 3 years. Being involved in the community, working in the tourism community, being involved in the business community. So you get to meet with people all the time, and you get to hear people complain. You hear people upset. You see businesses closing, businesses that you worked for, that you supported yourself. And then you see David Cicilline not being there for anybody. You see him lie to you and say, oh yeah, I support small business, I support small business. But then you look at his voting record and it shows that he doesn't support small business. And then you see veterans open up small businesses, and then you see him like, oh well, David's not there to support you when the federal government comes after you. So it hurt me, to hear all these stories and actually physically see it. And then you see David lie to your face about certain issues. I say their Iran deal is the big issue for me because I'm a Jewish Republican. There's not that many, but believe it or not, I am. And I asked David, why are you supporting the Iran deal? He said, Russ, I'll make a decision later on. It's not a decision to be made. Either you support it or you don't. Well, either you're going to stand with the people, the majority of Rhode Islanders who stood against the deal, or you're going to support the deal and be the president's right-hand person.
How do you know the majority of Rhode Islanders stood against the Iran deal?
Well, we actually, the Jewish community, Stand With Us, did a lot of forums. We actually did, we knew that David was no wrong on this issue. He actually conducted a push poll based on the Iran deal, whether or not he'd be elected again. We actually had people call me and say, Russ, I just got a phone call from David Cicilline asking would I vote for him if I vote for the Iran deal.
What did the push poll say? Do you know?
No, I obviously I didn't get the call, but there's actually Republicans who are independents now that said, it said, will you vote for me, yes or no, if I support the Iran deal? And a majority of people told me no, but obviously, David saw the support. David is supported by J Street, that gets a lot of money to his campaign. David Cicilline is all supported by the Students for Palestine at Brown University. It's on their website that that David supports them over the Jewish community. So there's no doubt that we knew David was going to support the Iran deal.
So you're making this. Are you making this a Jewish issue?
I'm making it as part of my platform. It is a Jewish issue, absolutely. David says that he always has the Jewish voters as a safe vote. He always has them in his back pocket. In the East Side, it's a big Jewish community, so he always assumes that he's going to have that vote.
But he doesn't.
He doesn't have it this time. He doesn't.
Right. We'll come back and touch a couple more bases. Interesting. Stay with us. So let me tell you, we'll have plenty of time to get to the issues, and that was an interesting one that you just dug into there, Russ. Tell me, do you see this primary as a new problem?
Nope, I actually see the primary as an easy victory, actually. When Karen MacBeth announced, people called us and told us stories about Karen MacBeth. People called us and gave us ammo to use against her.
Like what?
Well, unfortunately, I decided, me and Karen agreed not to go against each other, so I'm not going to say anything. So we made that deal. And
there's a classic political move. Hey, I got all this info on a candidate, but I'm not going to offer.
Me coming out.
What is that?
Well, me coming out against Karen would be probably with terrible politics, bad decision making. It's not going to help us. It's not federal. It's local. Issues. There are conspiracy stories about her that we've heard that obviously we don't want to use because we don't know if it's true or not.
Again, you did it again. There are conspiracy stories out there, but we don't want to use.
Yeah, so I'm not going to use them. If I don't know if they're true or not, I can't use them. I'm not going to lie and tell the voters.
Are you having a conversation with yourself? Because I have no idea what the conspiracy stories are.
Well, I said I can't give you. I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you the stories. But we do. But I will say this: if it turned out that she did want to go negative against us, we have a heck of a research team that found out enough information that I could tell you that we could go against her.
So I thought you were going to tell me you wanted to run a positive campaign, but what you did is I got a couple of birdies in my back pocket here that I'm going to zing her with if she decides to get negative against me. And we're going to whack her. But you know what? I can't tell you what they are because I just don't really apply. But I might use them and blah, 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 blah.
But we made a deal that not to.
That is as passive aggressive a dirty campaign tactic as I have seen in a long time.
Yeah. But it's also safe for us. It's one of those little extra things just in case. We want to make sure, just in case she goes back on her word, that we want to be ready. We want to be ready. We don't know. This is politics. Anything could happen. It's Rhode Island. Anything could happen.
So you have more or less threatened the state rep turned congressional candidate with a "Don't you dare."
We're ready. We're ready for whatever comes out if she comes after us.
All right. Well, listen. We'll have to continue this on the radio soon. Will you join me soon?
Absolutely.
On the radio? Because we have to leave it there. We don't know what the threat is. We don't know what the conspiracy is, but Russ does. We'll be right back. I'm not going to sleep tonight thinking about what Russell Taub has on Karen MacBeth. Anyway, hey, so what? Baseball. They've been good to us, and it started today at Fenway. We don't know what the score is because they're still playing as we record. Hey, why don't we have more people with degrees in Rhode Island? We'll talk about it tomorrow. We got to go. Bye.